Welcome everyone to the selection table. It's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, and it's time to select a team. I'm Pommy and Oz. You'll know me because you've clicked the link to come on the channel, but you will know these other regulars just joining us this week. As usual, the man who can pick a team almost as well as he can sing and songwrite, the wonderful Ian from Navy Blue Corner. How are you doing?
Mate, doing very, very well this week. I mean, what an absolute win. What a performance. It's hard to be upset after that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting with the changes that we all chuck in this week because it was such a good performance. Be interesting to see if anyone does swing the axe, but very keen to get into it all.
Mate, we love an axe swing around these parts. I hope someone's just removed 8 players for the banter, but joining us inside for the first time, what feels like since Brisbane, we've got the wonderful, legendary host of My Blue Heaven, our favourite, Mr. Bucky. How are you doing, Bucky?
Yeah, good, Pom. Thanks for having me on again, mate. G'day, boys. Yeah, looking forward to this. I concur with what Ian said. That was unbelievable last week, and even I got excited over that win. I was up and about. That was amazing. One of the best performances I can remember. We've had some beauties this year. I remember the round 1 win against Brisbane was something else, but I don't know. There was something about this performance, given the amount of injuries we have and the circumstances, sort of midway through that second quarter, and looking like it was going to be not so much a comfortable win to the Giants, but just to change the way we played was probably the most impressive thing. And it was just a stirring performance in the end, but a fair bit of skill as well. So hats off to the boys. It was amazing.
Felt a little bit like a 1980s movie, didn't it? It had everything. It had the pre-game destruction that you've lost your players. It had the in-game no one could kick and pass. And then all of a sudden, the heroes, Patrick Cripps and Sam Walsh, come together and drag them over the line and destroy their arch enemies.
Yeah, and it was the dirty villain as well, Toby Green, who sort of raised his ugly head there towards the end and got a little bit angry with Jordan Boyd, which didn't quite go the way he probably liked it. But you're exactly right, mate. It had everything in it, that game, and geez, wasn't the crowd, Paul? Wasn't the crowd just unbelievable?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was
the energy in that first quarter.
Oh, yeah. To refer to a 1980s movie, I reckon it was like Rocky. It was like when Mikey sort of picked up Rocky and his soul came out in the ring and he said, "Get up, you son of a bitch!"
The win had everything but a Huey Lewis backing track, to be honest.
Yeah.
It had everything. Maybe we can arrange that. But joining us after 2 weeks off, a little bit like Adam Chera, our own Italian with style, invoking his inner Gareth Southgate with a suit and a waistcoat. We've got the wonderful Paul Sebastiani. Paolo, how are we doing, mate?
Good evening, lads. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in the comments and those who are viewing and those who are listening. I'm very, very well. It's hard not to be excited after that performance last week. And may it long continue. Very good performance from the lads in the second half. And I think I reckon it was the loudest the crowd has been this season, I would suggest. And I would say that second half is probably the best patch of football we've put together since I can really remember, just based on the scenario and the injuries we had and the scenario coming in, given we were poor the week before against Adelaide. The response was nice, wasn't it? And that's always the sign of a good team. A sign of a good team is a team that comes out and responds immediately after a bit of a lull the week before. So it's hard not to be excited by what the boys are producing at the moment.
Did you think when we got them goals on, right? And I don't often listen. I don't watch the game with commentary because I don't like commentators. I'll be honest, but I do watch the replay, and I felt that was the worst commentated, most exciting passage of play I've ever seen. Like them commentators, I'm not saying they were biased against Carlton, But the only people that didn't seem to be enjoying it were orange-shirted men and people in the commentary box. They seem to hate it.
They know what's coming. That's why. Because all four of us and the rest of us are going to be insufferable for the rest of the year if we continue to play that way. So, oh well, let them do what they have to do.
Maybe you need to get on comms, Paolo. I need some excitement. But
Hey,
we know
means.
Paul was excited. Paul has done something we've never done before.
Unchanged.
He actually didn't change the team, which I've never seen it before on this show. I never thought it was done. But, I mean, Paul, start us off. What did you like? I mean, I said it in my review, and Bucky touched on it as well, and Ian has as well. And I know on the podcast with Nick, you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, finding balance. I actually feel like that was probably the most balanced side we've had out there. It felt good defensively, good attacking wise. Didn't feel like it had any weaknesses from the eye test.
Yeah, and I think, and I just want to start this off by saying that Wiedering and Williams, I think, do you reckon Williams is more doubtful than Wiedering? Is that
looking at the way Wiedering was actually moving during that game,
he couldn't.
You'd be a brave man to actually think he'll get up, but given that a couple of weeks back that Elijah Hollins was subbed out with a hip flexor and it looked like he was going to miss multiple weeks, he looks fantastic at the moment in terms of his body. So I would think Wiedering gets up. I'd probably be a little bit more concerned given his history, Zach Williams. I'm not quite sure if that's just a cork calf or something just a little bit more sinister. I'm not quite sure. But if they're both right, I think, it's a difficult one because I really rate Geelong's forward half, particularly their smalls.
Yeah, sheesh.
And one thing I did notice, Paul, as well, mate, I don't know if you were watching Zach Williams closely in that sort of early part of the game before he did cop whatever calf he did. He did look a little bit, I don't know, he looked a little bit gassed, tired, struggling to really get back and defend. So I'm not quite sure whether, they'll give him a bit of a rest. It's probably been a bit of
I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind if they manage him. And I think there's a scenario too, when you come off an ACL, there are moments where I think because you haven't played for so long, the body just tends to get sore because you haven't hit that capacity for quite some time. And these corkies, and we've seen his body fail him recently. So if they take the conservative approach, I'm happy with that. But
I think you touched on a really good point with the ACLs, that I think the knee itself is fine. It's holding up really well. It's every other part of the body, the feet, the calves, the shins, the back, the hips. So it's the loading, and it's a lot different. I mean, he would have had fantastic loading throughout the preseason, got the body right, but now he's had how many games in a row now for Zach Williams? He's played every game, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's played every game, which is, considering what he's coming off, I think is a testament to him. And there was, I just think, and maybe he looked a little off because our backline again was under a lot of pressure in that first half. And actually, I must admit, there was a fantastic defensive effort that he committed towards the GWS end, where the ball was sort of behind him and he had the back of his head facing the ball, and he had to turn around and get the spoil right. And he got it, he timed it to perfection. So look, I don't know if what did they say? It was a corked Achilles. So look, again, if they take the conservative approach, it's okay. Just based on form, I haven't made any changes whatsoever. I thought Cowan was fantastic on the weekend as well. Love his endeavour. Love his attack on the ball. I loved his defensive actions as well, because I think as a young player, when you're coming into and I will say it was a high pressure game given the scenario, he didn't look overawed at all. I thought he was one of the picks of the bunch, just given his inexperience. But the way in which he progressed his form from VFL into the AFL team, there's always that little question mark, isn't there? Can you replicate what you're doing at VFL, which is, it's far less pressure than what you're going to cop against a GWS team who's in form with some dangerous forwards. And the other fella I want to mention too, and look, I don't want to pick on names or anything like that, but there are a whole host of people, and it's not to say you're right or wrong or anything like that, but the whole Pitternet, blaming Mark Pitternet for why we lost to Adelaide is one of the most ridiculous things I have ever seen and heard on Twitter. To blame one individual, a ruckman, for the reason we lost to Adelaide. Why did Hewitt not get mentioned in the Adelaide game last week? I thought he was terrible defensively in the last 7 minutes, but he's been great for us all year. Now Pitternet comes out this week, and I know it's only one game, but he played his best game for the club. He's completely fit now, and I thought he was, if it wasn't for him in that first half, we would have been down by 6 or 7 goals. So this whole blaming Mark Pitternet for losing to Adelaide is just, it is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. And if you continue to go with it, you don't know how to analyse the game properly, and you are just looking for something that is just not there, and you're just trying to justify your own opinion because you don't want to admit you're wrong. Simple as that. So that's enough for Mark Pitternet. Regardless, he's got limitations. We know he's got limitations, but I'm just sick of the whole, we lost against Adelaide because of him. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think everyone's just very overreactive all the time. We never really, and the AFL media, it kind of can drive that a lot. It doesn't seem as if anyone's kind of accountable for what they say the week before, where, people were all blaming Pitto. Everyone, including myself, I said, look, I think we'll just go back to the one ruck and get Harry involved because it was working, and I want to see a bit more of that before we bring Pitto back in. And then all of a sudden, one game, it's amazing, and now it's the big, everyone's talking about it, saying Pitto's in for good, the 2 rucks work perfectly, whereas you just saw the worst of it. Now it's the best, and you've almost forgotten the Adelaide game happened. I think, we just need to simmer a little bit on it. And, absolutely, I think when you do see it and when you do see the positives, call it out because you got to appreciate it when it's there.
Well, I think, and Pommy, you know about this a lot. You smash the analytical stuff and the data and the stats, and you know I'm that way inclined. I'd say we're sort of the tacticos. The tactic nerds, I would say, when it comes to all this kind of stuff. But
El Tacticos.
Yeah, the El Tacticos. I don't understand, what is this whole obsession of, what does Mark Pitternet have to do with our turnover game? Where has that come from? One player coming into the team means that you cannot play a turnover game. We beat GWS, arguably one of the best turnover teams in the competition, via scores from turnover with Mark Pitternet in the team. And again, I know it's only one sample size, but people who have made this argument that Mark Pitternet coming into the team means we don't win scores from turnover, we're looking at games from a season or two ago when there was lack of cohesion with this group. There's new coaches coming in, teaching us new ways. No one has provided any context as to the reason why we lost those games in turnover. They've just said, because Mark Pitternet is in the team and we lost turnovers and we've only won 6 from 14 games with those 2 in the team with regards to scores from turnovers, that there's an automatic correlation. It's amateur stuff. I'm sorry, it's just amateur stuff. And there's no context provided to these stats and numbers whatsoever. So I know I'm going on a rant here, but I'm just sick of seeing, I'm actually sick of it. I'm sick of seeing paid media and people on Twitter and people on social media branding about these stats with absolutely no context provided whatsoever. It is absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Can I jump in?
Oh yeah, go for it, Bob.
Yeah, no. What I'll say is, I think the proof will always be in the pudding. He was,
of course.
That combination on the weekend was outstanding. It really was. I think you're spot on with he set the tone early in the game. And what I'm starting to gather now with Mark Pitternet is, he does have obviously his deficiencies, but what other ruckman in the competition doesn't? What I think the big positive with Pitternet is probably compared to TDK. Now we know TDK is the athlete, okay, and he's got that certain X factor about him. Yeah. But I feel that this midfield of ours feels very much, not so much protected, but very safe around Mark Pitternet. I think he's a wonderful teammate. I think he's very, very popular. You can see that. And I feel like Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, George Hewitt, Cheryl when he's back in, they probably trust Mark Pitternet more than any other player in the team, given his ability to protect them. And that's. I think we saw that as soon as he arrived at the football club. I remember the first probably half a dozen games he played. He was a bit of an enforcer when he came to the club. He had a point to prove, and you're seeing that more and more now. And I think you go back to that final we played against Melbourne last year, and that's probably a bigger sample size on the big stage. In a big final when he had a role to do on Max Gawn and he performed it to obviously the best of his ability, but provided his midfielders were first use. However, the proof will always be in the pudding with two rucks. But right here, right now, we have challenges this week against Geelong because what are Geelong going to do? I mean, are they in a position now to go, okay, we're seeing what Carlton are able to do with Pitnet and TDK. Are we now going to play Conway? And they managed Stanley last week and played both. So, that becomes really interesting because if they only play just Stanley, and they drop Conway, geez, doesn't that make it a different dynamic, given the fact that how mobile Stanley is, particularly around the ground?
Yeah, it's interesting to see. We've kind of opened up our idea behind the two rucks, but there's a lot. There's obviously a lot that goes into it, and now opposition are going to realise that well, they've played this certain way, and now they're going to try and take away that from us. But I guess that's on the players and the coaches now to say, okay, well, they know what we're going to do. They're going to try and stop us. What moves do we have now to try to facilitate the best of us? So. It's interesting. It's interesting. And this is where I continue to make the argument as well about what is a best 22. We've put this 22 out on the park this week, and they've produced arguably our best performance for the year. So, do you know what I mean?
You know the way I see it this week, and I think the story that everyone missed, and it was something that I tried to focus on in the review, that I think I understand the criticism of two rucks. So, full caveat.
Yes.
I was pro two rucks last year. Then when we saw it in the preseason, I really liked the more dynamic approach with Mackay. And I was like, okay, we get to play an extra mid. I'm a bit like what Bucky says as well. I always feel like our midfield is kind of the same at times. I felt without Pitnet, it allows you maybe to play like a spark type player. We see Elijah getting a lot of midfield minutes and stuff. I thought what I really like this week, and I don't feel like it's focused on enough, is this is the first time we've seen Voss get his balls out and flop them on the table and say, TDK is a forward, Pitnet is the backstop. And this is what your job outside of rucking. You are a forward, TDK. You are playing that Max Gawn hybrid. Is he a defender? Is he a midfielder? And I felt that really worked for Pitnet because then he didn't have to run 200 miles. I feel like from me, I don't analyse him like this, but I can only speculate how other people do, is they look at Pitnet, they look at Gawn, they look at Grundy, and then forget you can't help genetics. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm the same height as Usain Bolt, but I ain't fucking running the same speed as him. Do you know what I mean? That's where, like, the fact we've both got working faces and are human are the two things we've got in common. Outside of that, nothing's the same. So I feel like sometimes that's it. But I will say this. My granddad was one of the greatest football coaches I've ever seen, right? At lower level, at under 18s. Every one of his teams since the 70s won titles, and he did it. And he always used to say to me, as a golfer, blaming one player for your defeat would be as moronic as you blaming your masseur for not making the British Open, right? So because you're a team. So I can't go around and blame my coach, my massage therapist, my nutritionist. It's me hitting the shots. The team is one person made up of 11 people in football in AFL 23. So you can't blame one person because one cog doesn't have to work. 22 can work as well. So it's an interesting point. Me and Bucky and Saz nailed it. We covered this a couple of weeks ago, Bucky, on this show. We were talking about Kemp and saying you can tell the fans are looking for someone to kill, are looking for the new ploughman. And I feel every week we have this conversation, get rid of Kemp, he started playing well. Get rid of Ollie Hollands, he started playing well. Get rid of Pitnet, he starts playing well. they're just waiting for the guy they can blame every week. And at the moment, the boys are resilient, which is really good.
And
we're probably
go
not
ahead.
winning that. We're not going to win that game on the weekend without Pitnet. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Given what Tito Kerr was able to do forward, and then given our dominance, particularly in the centre, and that was mostly a lot of that was around what Pitnet was able to do. We're not winning that game without that combination against GWS. That game wasn't going to turn the way in which it did. So as much as people want to blame Pitnet from the week before, well, let's take a look at it. Let's turn it around and go, we're not winning that game against the Giants without what Pitnet was able to do in that game. Now, he's not going to – we'd be crazy, absolutely crazy to think that he's going to play out of his skin like that each week. That was, for me, one out of the box. He was even taking contested marks around the ground. That's a lot to do with – that's a lot to do with confidence as well. But he's always been – Pitnet's always been a decent clearance player. But to me – Pom, his clearances, we spoke about this last week. Usually they're just a little bit hacked. You know, they sort of fall at centre forward, but he was a lot smarter with his clearances in this game. He was able to feed them off. We're able to get some real power through the centre of the ground through his work. So, I thought it was a really good display by Mark Pitnet. But, another challenge, as I mentioned before, another challenge awaits against a completely different skill set in Reece Stanley if he plays and they drop Conway.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny you say that because I actually spoke to a member of the playing group and we were talking about Pitnet's game and saying that he was Superman. And the playing group member did say, at least the fans may get on his back. And I was like, au contraire, he's now set a standard. If he doesn't do that next week, they'll come for him 4 times as hard as he did against Fremantle. I was like, unlucky.
But the last thing I'll raise just on the team, I thought the wings operated really well. I really liked and this is the thing with, I guess we're all sort of raising the eyebrow, the rock style regarding Ollie Hollands, but those wing roles can go so unrewarded output wise, given the amount of running that you do. We finally saw Ollie get some reward for effort output-wise, and he kicked a really, really important goal. So, and the whole bin scenario as well, just watching him on the weekend, this will be the final point I make on my team, you can see the difference between Ollie and Bins when at the contest. And so Voss's and our mantra, our principle is contest and pressure, right? And their running capability, I would say, is quite similar. But Ollie, with regards to contest and pressure, is levels above Jackson Bins at the moment. And that, for me, is one of the main reasons I think he continually gets a game ahead of Bins at the moment. And that's the final point I'll raise.
Mate, I love it. I love it. And following on for that, bevtone, I reckon Blake Acres would be there. And I like our width. And looking at Geelong, I did a bit of scouting for this one because I'll be honest, I've watched 2 games of Geelong this year and both of them have given me the opposite of insomnia. But I did watch, I watched the North Melbourne one, and there was a point that I wanted to pick up here, that Eddie Ford drove them mental. So Eddie Ford, great drafty, 185 centimetres. And if you ever were going to copy and paste Ashton Moir as a junior to what he could be in the seniors, it's Eddie Ford. And Bucky touched on the point there, they're backmen. They're missing Tom Stewart. But when you look at them, their backline is really astute at dealing with small forwards. And he's got a very good plan for tolls. The one area that it seems to leak is that one where, are you a tall? Are you a small? And it's that little question mark I think Scott's always had. And I was watching Ashton this week. So this is how I'm going to sell you Ashton. Ashton was a free kick waiting to happen because he arrives late, he gets in front very late, and there was a few, I reckon he could have had about 7 or 8 against Port until he finally got one in the 4th from being chopped at the end because he arrived so late. He's got a real late burst of speed. So I'm bringing Orazio out, and I don't want to drop Orazio because he's shit. Or any of that stupidness. I think Orazio at the moment, he's been playing a new role, and we've seen it. There's a lot of pressure acts, but there's not really any output. So I feel like he's a little bit like Kennedy was 3 weeks ago, where he didn't have a defined role. So for me, get into the Magoos, go and work on that role with the Magoos because there's no one playing that role. And have a week off, get yourself right, and bring Ashton in, which will allow Kennedy more midfield time and them to float that Oliver Hollands Elijah swap inside. And I've rested Zach Williams. I think Wheaters will get up, and I'm confident he will do. I just think with the history of Williams and with the longevity of Sard, I'd rather give it the extra week, than try and just get this game out of the way. I feel like Geelong, although efficient, I don't watch Geelong and think they're any good. I think the same weaknesses with Geelong apply with GWS. Last week, GWS play sexy football. You put a bit of pressure on them, though. They fold like my grandma's lamb tarts. Do you know what I mean? Lemon tarts. Do you know what I mean? With cream. They look good, but they have got no substance. So, Geelong are more ruthless and efficient. I think if you take the game to them, watching the North Melbourne game particularly, there was stages North Melbourne looked like the real football side versus them, and I think we will bring it. I've kept the forward pressure the same. I think the reason we lost to Adelaide was the forward pressure died very quickly, and we saw it in the first half against GWS, so I don't really want to change that. And Ashton, 7 tackles last week, this week, just gone, and 6 tackles the week before. It's a massive thing that he's worked on. You can see he's put the effort in, and I actually hold him above Mr. Jack Martin at the moment. I've never seen Jack Martin put that much pressure on. So I think Ashton deserves a go purely because I think he's going to provide something that we don't. So that is the team. Aside from that, I changed nothing. Chin Cotter comes in for Zach Williams. I think he's a ready-made replacement, and he looked a class above VFL last week. So
yeah, no, I definitely do like the team. I've always like when you bring in Ashton Moir, he's going to get a go at some stage, and I've loved what I've seen in the VFL. Probably guess my only question with that is just wanting to know how the team's kind of going to work with it, because we have noticed Orazio playing a bit higher up the ground. Not sure if that's by design or that's just where it ends up, but it looks as if he's being a bit more high half forward. Even he finds himself on the wing quite a lot as well, pushing higher. Yeah. Ashton, we're most likely, if he does come in, I'd assume he's going to be closer to goal. So how is that dynamic going to play out with Durden? And he's also in that forward line, probably staying deep for times. Who's kind of going to replace Orazio pushing up higher? What's the dynamic like?
Well, I think his Chin Cotter is, if you look at his VFL role from the 2 games he's played so far, it's been half back, then going on the ball. So I think that looking at the week just gone with Voss's team, Kennedy was moved around to halfback, which he did very well too. But I feel like if Orazio's not there, he seems to be the extra mid for a stoppage. So we have got mids there. We've got Cottrell, who played a little bit on the ball in stoppage last week. Then Chin Cotter can do that. I think Walsh, you've got that rotation of Hewitt. Elijah wants that on-ball time. So Oliver Hollands. I just feel like they've already got enough mids if they want to do that. For me, Chin Cotter will be playing pure halfback. Ashton Moir stay in the top half of the ground and be that extra target. So I feel like I just give more time to Kennedy. More time to Kennedy, more time to Elijah, and persevere with that. Because I thought Elijah, when he went on the ball as well, to go to Bucky's point, it gave something more in the midfield as well. He's a little bit different to the others, which I think really helps.
I thought really before, I thought really long and hard about Moir as well. Similar to your points, Pom, in regards to just having that different dynamic. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about what does he need to do in the VFL to warrant serious consideration, and that was at least lay 7 tackles. He laid 7 tackles in the VFL, hit the scoreboard, he's kicked 3 goals. Given it was against a pretty average Port Melbourne, who are really struggling at the moment in the VFL competition, but I could see it. I mean, they've got I know that Geelong have got some extremely dangerous sort of hybrid forwards. I mean, Ollie Henry's a very, very dangerous player, probably similar type to Moir. Whether we're going to risk that in a big game, an important game, but he's going to probably have to debut at some time, and it's not like Fantasia is setting the world on fire. I feel like we've got enough sort of small forwards. We've got that covered with Durden and Owies, but I like your train of thought. I really do, and I like the switch of Chincotta and Williams. I know we lose a little bit with the flair of Williams, but what we do know with Chincotta is he's as hard as a duck's beak, and given it's against Geelong, a place where he's from, a place where he was probably ignored to a fair extent. Coming through the system there, he played at the Geelong Falcons and was overlooked. So, yeah, I think it's a nice one for him to prove a point as well. He's a tough boy, so I like that move as well. I think Williams is really battling at the moment.
Yeah, good call from you, Bucky. There, I wanted to mention the Williams and Chincotta swap. Just off the top of your head, Pommy, what do you think? So if that move is to happen, Williams out, Chincotta in, what do we gain from Chincotta that Williams might not provide, and what do we lose with Williams coming out that Chincotta might not provide? So I'm just looking from a pure output point of view, because I know Chincotta's ground ball that's a real strength of his game. And I was looking at a player potentially like Close, who I rate really highly from Geelong, as someone who he could potentially wriggle around in Geelong's forward line. And then conversely too, with Chincotta, we've seen him move on the ball in the VFL as well. So that might also be something that we opt to do if we want to change things up around stoppage.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Zach Williams, obviously, like Bucky says, I think the eye test is the positive with Zach Williams. He looks sexy, doesn't he? Where Chincotta's more like Magnolia Payne. Zach Williams is the gold filigree finish of the Malaga. You know what I mean? Mrs. Pom wants the glitter, the pink.
Yeah, the sparkles on top.
Yeah, the gold glitter in the Magnolia Payne. I just want Magnolia Payne. I'm painting the walls. But I do think what Chincotta's shown so far in 2 games in VFL is he's willing to take the game on. And I think that's the only thing we lacked last week, was someone willing to burst from the back half of the ground. It feels like we missed Saad that first half. I was watching it thinking, if Saad was here, when we get a bit flat-footed and a little bit back-pedaled, Saad kind of injects us and goes, "Now, boys, let's go."
Yes.
So
yes.
I'd like to see. I think he would be very confident, Chincotta, whoever it will be, whether it be Stengo. I know he likes playing on the more dangerous smalls, and he likes that battle. But I think you could put him on a Brad Close. I wouldn't even be surprised watch him in the VFL this week. He found himself sometimes on some of the taller guys, which gave me shades of Plowman, because he bodies them quickly and bodies them the ball. So I think he's just going to give you a bit of toughness. And I did like last week Kent playing at high halfback, which seemed to be the big change. We touched on it in the ratings. He went really high up the ground, and it was like kind of a show of Voss's support, saying, "Nah, I trust you to be a ball user now." So if we're going to play him in the back pocket and Nick Newman's going to take over that gig, which he did a lot last week, I think Chincotta's ready. I think wherever you want to play him, I think he's hungry. He's ready to eat someone alive.
I'll tell you, that back line that we have lined up there, and if you look at it, the one word that comes to mind with all of them is direct. That's the one word that comes to mind. Cowan is direct. Boyd is direct. Kemp is direct. Newman is direct. You know, Wiedering and Young are the more dour types, but we know how good Wiedering is and can be ball in hand too. So it's a very, very aggressive back line, which that's what you need. You need the high line. You need the press. You don't want a team like Fremantle playing dour, boring football and making it like that. Dice ball doesn't win you premierships. Simple as that. It doesn't.
And they're all. It's a great point. They're all sort of. I don't know. They're all beasts in regards to their defensive.
Yeah, aren't they? Yeah.
Because particularly Boyd and Chincotta, they've come through the hard way, and it's almost like they play somewhat with a chip on their shoulder. You know, and you throw the youngster in, Cowan as well, who, you know, the Tasmanian boy who's come across, Carlton supporter. they're going to give you that drive, but at the same time, you can trust that they're going to do the right thing defensively. They're going to play within their limitations. I mean, that role that Boyd played on Toby Green after Williams went off was just outstanding. Just his level of discipline and to play that role. And I've got no doubt. I mentioned it on Twitter today. I've got no doubt. I might have been sounding like I was being a bit of a smartass, but I've got no doubt, given the bath that Boyd gave Toby Green, that there was a level of frustration in that act. He went up and thought, okay, I'm really struggling here. I'm the captain of the football club. Looks like we're going to get beaten here. I'm going to throw my body around here, and I reckon he was frustrated. He's done it before, and Boyd was just like amazing last week in that role. And I think, we've found one with Jordan Boyd, but I still would like us to use him a lot more offensively, because I think we keep saying it, he's probably the best kick in our football team, particularly on the 45. The kick that you love, Pommy, that one where it just opens up the ground and makes this look really dangerous going inside forward 50.
It was actually, you know what? I said this, and I tried to word it in my review, and I edited it a few times, because the original way I said it was, I kind of really enjoyed when Zach Williams went off, because we saw the variety in what some of these boys have, which I don't think they would have got that responsibility if Zach Williams was there. And Boyd and Kemp were two players I picked on in my review, because it was great to see them have a bit of freedom with the ball. And they really showcase what they're different at. You saw Kemp, he likes that short hit-up lead. But like you say, Boyd likes that nice 45, open the ground up kick. And it was nice to see them get that opportunity, because usually it's all going through Sard, it's all going through Williams. It was nice to see some of the other guys say, you know what, Vossi, if you want a change, I'm here.
Yeah, completely agree.
Well, let's log Bucky. Bucky, you didn't. We both made two changes, and there's Team Bucky. He's gone with the boys.
I'm on the Cincotta train just for this game. I feel, you mentioned it already with Stengel. I think the one we probably haven't spoken about, I think, is probably the best small forward, the most creative in terms of goal assists. That's Gryon Myers. His ability to push up the ground and then get back. If we talk about guys with engines, he's probably got one of the best engines in the competition. His work rate is unbelievable, and he's so creative. So we need to be wary of him, particularly. Those smalls are going to get up the ground. It's not so much when they're up the ground; it's when they're coming back. So I just feel like with a fit Cincotta, a fit Boyd, and a fit young Cowan is probably the way we'll go in this game. And I just watched Williams really closely in that game on the weekend, and he just didn't look. It just didn't look right. And it wasn't just obviously the knock he got to his leg. He looked tired. He looked like he was labouring. Like really labouring. So if he's not right, we do what good football clubs do. Geelong do it better than anyone else. They're managing players all the time. I see Zach Tui got managed last weekend. They're continually managing their veterans. And let's face it, Williams is getting into that category now. And if we want Williams to be up and going in the second half of the season, we need to be sort of taking care of him now. There's no way in the wide world you could risk playing Zach Williams in this game against Geelong, and how dangerous they are and how hard running they are, and expect him to really defend unless he is 100%. And there's no way he would be 100%. They might name him, but I don't think he will play. And I'm really confident that Cincotta can come in and play a role. I really am. Whether it's good enough, we're just going to have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, in that first half, when Williams was on the ground, we were defensively not great. So give Chincotta a chance to come in. He's nice and fresh. And I feel like Carroll's probably, I feel like he's been subbed quite a bit. We don't have a lot, unless, our boy, the one that we've been, I noticed tonight, boys, I don't know if you saw the article on Jackson Binns that the club put out. nice little positive story on Jackson Binns in regards to just building on his 2023 season, won the best and fairest in the VFL, and it's had a fabulous start to the year. And it's almost like, I don't know, are they trying to tell us something that might be coming in? So I don't know whether Geelong are the most. I like because I'm going to be speaking about this in my preview when I do it tomorrow. I don't think Geelong they're ultimate professionals. I don't feel like they're the most physical team, and I'm looking forward if we can bring the heat on them to really test them. So maybe this is a good game for Jackson Binns to play, given that it will be played. For us, it's going to be hard and tough, but we'll need those guys on the outside. You know what I mean? We might need those guys on the outside. I haven't put him in my team, but it wouldn't surprise me if Razio doesn't play at all. Carroll probably may start as the sub again, and Binns comes in. We'll just have to wait and see. But I just feel that Carroll's probably been sub quite a bit. And I didn't think he was awful last week. I thought he was okay. I thought he played his role. Just gives us a little bit in the centre, a few centre bounces, and I don't think he's a long-term prospect for this year. But right here, right now, he's young and he's fit, and he's going along okay without being brilliant. So unfortunately, I'm just not seeing it with Razio. I'm just not. He didn't lay a tackle, and I know it's not just about tackles, guys. I mean, it's pressure acts as well. I think the one very, very good piece of play he had was that chain of play where Cripps was tripped and he fed the ball out to Razio, and he dodged around a player, and I think it was the goal that Charlie kicked around the body.
Yes, it was. Yep.
That was classic Razio, sort of getting up the ground and just being a little bit too quick and nimble. But that was about it, really. And how long before we just say, okay, we need to give someone else a go? And I feel like we're covered for our smalls with Durden and Owies and Cotters as well, and Elijah kicked 2 goals on the weekend. That's my thought at the moment, but I'm being pretty conservative as well. I'm a little bit worried about Jacob Wiedering, to be perfectly honest. He just, if he's 85% fit, he's going to have a tough day at the office on Big Tomahawk. I think just the way Geelong play, that's going to be a tough matchup. So hopefully he's right to go. I'm a little bit worried about that one. I'm not quite sure of the availability, Paul, of Sam Durden. Is his 3-week suspension up?
Not yet. I don't think so. But seeing him train, the big worry with him is he's just not up to speed.
I'm with you, mate. But if Jacob Wiedering, if that's a nasty cork and it's in the hamstring, and he's just not. It might be halfway through the second quarter and we're watching him and he's labouring. You know what I mean? So is a half fit Jacob Wiedering better than a fully fit Sam Durden? He probably is, but at the same time, it's he's another one that's come off an interrupted pre-season, and his body's probably feeling the pinch a little bit as well. So exactly. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping he's right, because I wouldn't say that he's been in terrific nick since the he had a poor one against Adelaide. Even before he did his corky last week, he was a little bit up and down. And we know what Wiedering's like. He's a confidence player. And when he's up and about, he's controlling that back half. But It's probably my one concern. I know we've all been speaking glowingly of those sort of smaller type forwards and the role they're playing. My one concern probably is our key position strength down back. I think Young, he's going to have his hands full with Jeremy Cameron, and Wiedering's body concerns me, but we're probably going to have to play him if he's 85, 90% fit.
Yeah, and I think with Wiedering, it's that part of him where he's just, you can't keep him down. Like, you look at the game last week, it doesn't matter that the man can't move. You can't tell him not to go out there. And I agree, we're in that tough position where we just don't really have anyone else to really come in to replace him right now. That 60% good Jacob Wiedering that's maybe not as mobile as he could be is better than throwing in a small or a medium-sized defender like a Chin Cotter as a replacement. So it's a tough position, but I guess that's where our midfield just needs to win it first, so we don't allow the ball to go in there and just defend well as a unit. And I just wanted to touch a bit on Orazio Fantasia as well, because it's such an interesting thing with him. Like, I wonder how much, and like, I'm not sort of decided either way. It's more just a sort of discussion point, but how much his role potentially increases those around him, whether it's like his running patterns, how he's creating space for others. Because we kind of spoke about Cottrell early on in the season where he wasn't getting a lot of touches and didn't look like he was influencing things. Took a few weeks and then finally he's finding the ball and being rewarded for it. Maybe same with an Ollie Hollins. And maybe there's just an element of his game right now that is quite just unrewarding. And we kind of had the best week of, I felt, our sort of mid-high half forwards, that the mid-forward connection looked the best it ever was. Maybe if we bring someone else in, we could be even better. But there is an element to this that I'm questioning whether maybe what he is doing, even if we don't see it with the actual stats and touches that he is getting, maybe it is making us better. Maybe he's a vital cog in the way we move and create space in that sort of mid-forward area.
Oh, potentially, mate. I can't argue with that at all. Like, I'm probably not you'd have to really isolate him and just watch him, go to a game and just have the binoculars on Orazio and see what he's actually doing. But I think
Fantasia Cam, press red for Orazio.
Yeah, and I think the positive, if he does play this weekend, we're going in with the traditional three small forwards, Orazio, Durden and Owies. And I know that the role of the small forwards changed a lot over the last 10 years, that ability to get up the ground and defend and all that type of stuff. But we're going up against a Geelong who play three traditional small forwards as well, Stengel, Grime Myers, and also Stengel, Grime Myers, who's the other one? Brad Close. So I think it's a great, I suppose, a measure for us to see where our smalls are at compared to potentially what Geelong's do on Saturday against us. And I think maybe we can have a look, like, gee, they had a huge impact. Their smalls had a huge impact on this game. Or we could potentially say, geez, our small forwards had a huge say in this game. So I think it's a good one to go head-to-head, if I'm perfectly honest, because I feel we've still got another guy waiting in the wings in Motlop, who's a while away yet. But, yeah, unless you really watch, he must be doing something right, Rosie. I wouldn't be playing. But it's not like we have anyone really knocking on the door at the moment to take his spot.
You've got him as sub again, and I stole your idea when I had him as sub this week as well, because I actually thought that game you had him as sub and he came on as sub. I was like, brilliant. He got that goal. He looked lively. I was like, maybe this is the door smashing open. It feels comfortable. So I think part of it's a role. What do you think Orazio needs to do? Because I watch his game and I see him running around, and this week, I was like really focused on him. It feels like our boys don't quite know where he is yet. Where you watch Cripps, he kind of closes his eyes and knows Sam Walsh is making that run. He knows Boyd now is swinging around the back of the stoppage waiting for the handball. Do you think it might be something as simple as, well, that he is unusual, isn't he? When you watch him about the back of the stoppage Orazio's doing stuff that no other Carlton players thought of. And maybe it's just getting forgotten in the heat of the game.
Yeah, I think that I watch him and I'm looking at him in the moment. And I'm thinking, this bloke is. It's not the player that we thought we were going to get in regards to his body. I mean, he's played the first 6 games and he looks as fit as he's probably been in the last 4 or 5 years. And I just feel like we're just waiting for him to have a game. And I can understand the structure. I can understand that, he's probably doing some selfless things off the ball, which could be potentially helping us. But there comes a time where he's going to have to make a bit more of an impact, like a 4 or 5 possession game and no tackles. To me, it's almost like you're playing with one short. You know what I mean? Like that's my feeling with this. And I don't know whether there are any top teams in the competition. And don't get me wrong, we're going along really well. But I don't know if there's many teams in the competition that have a player that has had as limited impact across the first 6 games of the year as Orazio Fantasia, but is continually being played. Now, are we waiting for him to have his 10 to 12 possession game and he's going to hit the scoreboard and kick a couple of goals? I'm not quite sure. Is he just struggling? Is he Is he battling? Is he finding his feet? Are you what you're saying, Pom, that he's still trying to work out his teammates, he's working out the system? I can't answer that really. All I can answer is that Voss has got obviously a lot of trust in him. And yeah, it's but I look, I'm going to be honest, I'm not really seeing it at the moment with him. But I feel we're going to see 3 of the best small forwards in the competition playing this week, and they play for the Geelong Football Club. 1, can we stop them? Can our small defenders stop them? Or 2, can our 3, if Orazio play, can they outshine them? That's that. I mean, I know we've got the bigs up forward, but wouldn't we like to see our smalls cash in a little bit more? That would just make us irresistible. It would make us irresistible.
Yeah. Is there a point where eventually the input that you put in, and I know, Pommy, you always mention, and when you look at it, these type of forwards, that they're making those decoy runs. It's massive volume running. But eventually, is there a tipping point between that type of input compared to a limited output compared to what we see with other small forwards? And then at that point, it's like, well, okay, we're getting this out of you, but the output might not be high, but the tipping point is reached where we're not getting enough output, even though it may open up the door for others to score goals and for others to get involved with score involvement. I think there's a fine balance between the two, always.
I think eventually it'll become a decision. I think if Motlop was playing in the VFL and he kicked 4, I think the noise would be a bit louder. I think, I think you've got to expect something from him. I mean, I'm of Bucky's school. I keep watching him, and I said it in my review. There was like 3 moments when he's in the back line that one of them, Kerno takes a miraculous mark. The second one, Harry doesn't tap it on. He takes the mark. And the third one, TDK goes up and he spoils it the opposite way. But we could be talking about a 3-goal game for Fantasia. Like, he's in the right spots. It's not coming on. And I'm a firm believer, to use an old golf adage, there's no such thing in luck in golf. You put the ball in the right places, you'll eventually get the reward. So it feels like, I'm with Bucky, it feels like if you drop him, he has an 8-goal game in VFL. Do you know what I mean? It feels like he's there. It just needs to happen. But I think he's probably lucky that there's not a full-strength squad. I reckon if Connors, Motlop were all fit and played VFL last week, then maybe he'd be in trouble. But let's hope he doesn't. Let's hope he kicks ass and we don't talk about him ever again.
Correct. Exactly.
Ian, you did it. You brought the bins in.
Hey. Someone had to do it. It's not too dissimilar, I think, to the other teams that we've seen so far. Williams, like has been touched on, he could well and truly be good to go. The medical team could say he's fine. He's absolutely 100%. I just think with his track record, why not just be extra careful? We have such a long season to go coming off the back of the ACL. We've got some injuries with Sard at the moment. I just think play it safe in that aspect, get an extra week just to sort of build yourself back up again. And Chin-Cotter is the obvious in for that position. And yeah, we've talked about it a lot, but Geelong just have so many options in that dynamic forward line to go along with the key forwards. We haven't touched on, Dempsey and Henry, who are the guys that can bob up and kick goals and cause you a lot of trouble. So I do like that even if we are a little undermanned, they're so tenacious and tough down there with the guys listed. Kemp, Boyd, Chin-Cotter, Newman, Cowan. They're all guys that do like a bit of a scrap. Love to see Cowan be the first one to remonstrate as well when Toby Green sort of took out Boydie. It was just, those are the little things you love to see as a fan. And I think we've got enough of that in the back line with Chin-Cotter coming in to replace it and then trying to hurt them the other way by, as you touched on, being that direct ball movement. Love that from Cowan. He looked a lot different than last year. He didn't feel like an 18-year-old when he stepped out there. Felt a lot more composed and really just assured of himself. When he got the ball, he knew what he wanted to do and didn't hesitate. So I like the back line. And yeah, the other one, we've sort of been just talking about it with Orazio. I'm just kind of going to back him in for another week because, as I was saying, I think there's clearly a role and they're liking things that he's adding, whether it is actually shown on the score sheet. And I love Paolo's discussion point in when do you make that call if he isn't getting the touches, if he isn't getting the goals and the tackles. And I'm probably giving him one more week simply because we don't have a lot of other players to maybe run through there currently. And I just like the idea, like Pito, has a bad week, things don't work. All of a sudden, the week after has the best game he's ever played for Carlton. So I just want that one more game as a sample size now that I'm really focusing on it, just to really get a bit more of a glimpse. And then the last one was just that sub spot with Carroll. He's hasn't had a full game in a few weeks, played probably more football than we would have liked as a sub due to some injuries. It's more just I can't fit him in the team right now in that starting 22. So I just really want him to get some continuity, get that development, play a full game in the twos. And I like to reward Binns. I think he's been really consistent throughout the start of this year. Versatile, can play half forward on the wing, allows you to rotate everything. So yeah, it's a bit more of a managing / resting Carroll kind of thing, getting that more development for him rather than me thinking he's been so poor we need to drop him.
I feel like Binns is the perfect sub. Like, I know everyone's against subs debuts, but I'm sure if that's the only football Binns ever plays, he'd be happy to get 5 minutes because he gets to say he's an AFL footballer. But I look at Binns and just think, watching him play, I thought Paolo nailed it. You can't compare him to Akers and Hollands because he isn't that type of player. But do you remember how good Cottrell used to be as the sub? Because he came on, he was direct. He was like the Energizer bunny. He was like a new dog, wasn't he? A new puppy. He just humps everything. Energetic, do you know what I mean? Humping everything he can get shake his stick at. I agree. Bring Binns on, quarter to go, and just say, mate, go, 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 go. Against a Geelong side, which I thought Bucky nailed. I don't think they're a physical side, but I also don't think they're the quickest side. They've tried to add that swing shot, but it's still, like, with no all due respect to Geelong, it's still like old men doing it. It's not quick like GWS. I feel like Binns could stretch them at the G, like 15 minutes. Say, tell you what, mate, take over. He could destroy. I like it. Just subs aren't allowed to be debuts, are they?
It's a weird sort of thing. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of over it now. I used to be I don't debut someone as the sub. He could be on in the first 5 minutes. You never know. Anything could happen. I'm out there trying to win, and I think that's the best thing that helps us. So if that means it's not the most ideal thing for Binns, I guess I'm making that tough call, but I want a high-energy sub. Historically, I've always been on that train, and at the moment, he's that perfect guy that can come in and play a multitude of positions. And yeah, maybe there's a bit of pressure off him in his debut because he can come on when everyone else is a little bit sluggish, have already played 3/4 of footy, and he can really excel and get even more confidence on the back of it.
Any other questions, boys?
I like it.
I think we're good, mate.
Tell you what,
like
let's
it.
pick this. Let's pick this team chart. I can smell Mrs. Pom's home cooked pizza as well, so I'm getting hungry. Getting really hungry. Well, we'll start as we always do, top to the screen to the bottom. You know what? I'll go first this time because people say I manipulate it. So if I go first, I can't manipulate it. Right? That's what. That's the rumours going around. Pom manipulates chat. So if I go first, I can't. I'm going to save Jacob Whittaker and put him at fullback. Right, Mr. Ian.
Yeah, I'm saving my man, Lockie Cowan.
You know what? I thought you said Lockie Plowman then. I was going to say.
May as well. Bring back the wild card.
We did that once. All right, Bucky, who was saving in the back line?
Yeah, I'll go Brody Kemp. He's now the giant killer.
Giant killer, I like it.
He's taken Fogarty to the cleaners. He took Brown to the cleaners. Who will he get this week? Will it be Ollie Henry? I hope it's Ollie Henry and he takes him to the cleaners. I reckon it's a perfect matchup.
I agree with that. I'd love that. The giant. That's a good nickname. That if you're a boxer, the giant killer. I like that. Like a good nickname. Paolo, who we're saving?
The man from Spotswood, Jordan Boyd.
Jordan Maldini Boyd.
I'd go more along the lines of Cannavaro, given that.
Oh yeah, Cannavaro, small, diminutive beast. No, good one. I like it. Well, chat. We need 2 defenders. Whittaker in Kemp, Boyd, and Cowan are saved. Throw in your 2 names. You can play anyone at defence. There's no rules. But the names in the pool at the moment are Akers, Binns, Carroll, Chin, Cotter, Cottrell, Cripps, Kerner, Durden, Elijah, Fantasia, Hewitt, Hollands, Kennedy, Mackay, Moyer, Newman, Owies, Pitternet, TDK, Walsh, Williams, and Young. So threw your names in. We've got Newey and Chin Cotter. Boyd's already saved, Patrick.
Someone put Walsh at centre half back, please.
2 points.
Someone
2 points would be handy.
Tell you what, we're going to have to play a little bit of a game here. All right. Okay, so you've saved Newman and Chin Cotter. My OCD doesn't allow me to do what Voss does and play halfbacks at centre half-back. So I've got to make it up right. All right, on to the midfield. I've got to save him. Ollie Hollands, wing.
Yes. Cool.
Mr. Ian, who you saving for a mid?
Oh, give me big Brad Pitt as the ruckman.
Yeah.
Bradley Pitt. He's in. Bucky?
Give me Binns.
Woohoo!
Tell you what, it's the first time we've changed it. Chat. Paolo, who you saving? Get ready, chat. You're going to have to save a big name here.
P. Cripps.
P. Cripps. So, chat, we need 2 followers to go with Mark Pitternet. You've got Akers, Carroll, Cottrell, Kerno, Durden, Elijah, Fantasia, Hewitt, Kennedy, Mackay, Moyer, Owies, TDK, Walsh, Williams, Young. Tell you what, this is going to look like a real Vossy team if it's Walsh and Akers. If it's Walsh and Akers, it'll look like Voss has done it. He likes throwing a cog. You can save Hewitt as Akers and Hewitt. Akers is definitely in.
I was just going to say, while the votes are coming in, I just wanted to talk about Matty Kennedy for a second. How good's he been in the last few games? Getting thrown around as a halfback as well. And feels like even though he might not have a complete role week to week, it seems like it's changing. He just keeps stepping up. And his cleanliness, along with Hewitt in that midfield, that was a big, big difference from the way we played against Adelaide.
Injuries have helped, haven't they? Players like him.
Yeah.
Because now he's getting a role where I felt like he was a bit in trouble before Chera went down, but last couple of weeks, being a full-time mid, and he's also turned into a handy halfback, hasn't he, as well? Jesus. Career changer, but we're on to the forwards. You know what? This might be the changing of the guards. I'm saving my new boy, Elijah. Ian?
Give me Durden. He was unreal.
Durden.
What about if he kicked that goal in the last quarter?
Oh, God.
When he pounced on that ball, I reckon that that would have brought the house. Well, the house was already down.
Mate, those are my favourite types of goals. That's a commentator's dream. That Bruce McAvaney would have been Durden, steady. The Blues have won it. Those are the best type of goals.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Where are we? We've got Ian. Ian's done Durden. Bucky, who you saving forward?
Give me Kerner.
He's saved. And Paolo.
Give me Matthew score involvement Cottrell.
The ginger from Dandenong. Iconic player. Okay, chat. We need a centre half forward and a pocket. So fire them in. We've got. Oh, he's going bold here from Andy Hill. I love it.
Carroll.
Andy Hill's gone Carroll.
Shit.
He's gone Carroll. We've got
He might
Akers.
be over the hill. He might be over the hill and far away with that call, I reckon.
Harry and Cos. Cos has already been saved, but you can have a vote for Harry. Harry and Owies. Harry and Kennedy. Owies, Harry, or Durden. I love it. Owies and Harry. Ooh.
Owies and Harry it is.
Looks like it's Harry and who are we fighting? It looks like Harry and Kennedy at the last minute.
Oh, now Owies has just bounced back.
Harry and Owies.
Tell you what, chat. There's some big names here. So we're now going to our 5-man bench. I am going to. Who do I like the most out of there? Akers, I love you. I'm saving you. Okay. Any of them for our extended bench? Mr. Ian.
Yeah, I got to go for structure, so I'm saving Lewis Young.
Oh, look at that. The besties will be proud. Certified bestie, I hear Lewis Young is. Bucky, who you saving?
So we got is Harry in the team? I can't see
he's
him.
there.
Yeah, there he is. Yep, he's there.
Whereabouts is he? I can't. According to mine, it looks vacant on there. The forward pocket and centre forward looks vacant. Is there someone there?
No, it should be there. Can you see that?
Yeah, he's on me on centre half forward for me at the moment.
Okay, well, I must be. Yeah. Anyway, I'll take. So who we got available on the bench?
Got Carroll, Fantasia, Kennedy, Moir, TDK, or Williams?
TDK.
Call.
Paolo?
Oh, this is. I'm going to say Williams on the proviso he's fit, so we can maybe put an asterisk on that.
Ooh, he's gone bold. Paolo wants 4 points. Chat, one spot. Carroll, Fantasia, Kennedy, or Ashton Moir. Chat, you've got the opportunity to make someone's dream come true or end careers. Tell you what. No pressure, chat. No pressure. Who do you like more? Carroll, Fantasia, Kennedy, or Moir? Bam Bam's getting hella love. Tell you what.
Oh, yeah.
Do you reckon Bam Bam has become the J-Sauce of 2024?
Yeah,
Not the worst.
Oh, yeah.
I know Binns has definitely become the Dow of 2024. I think we can lay claim to that.
Fucking Jesus. I like Binns as well. Jesus, I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't know if we can say that's a compliment or an insult. But
hey, he's in the St Kilda side this week, isn't he?
I believe so.
He is.
You know what? I'm deleting my socials if he has 20. Because everyone's going to be in my DMs going, we should have kept him. But chat, the team we've gone with for Geelong: Newman, Weitering, Chincotta, Boyd, Kemp, Cowan, Binns, Cripps, Ollens, Elijah Mackay, Cottrell, Owies, Kerno, Durden, Pitternet, Walsh, Hewitt, Akers, Young, TDK, Williams, and Kennedy, with Fantasia and Carroll slipping into the Vuffle. And Ashton Moir stays there. Chat, you have been brilliant. But firstly, Ian, where can we find you? You're live on Blue Abroad now, aren't you, through the miracle of science?
Yes, so currently, once this wraps up, feel free to head over to the Blue Abroad YouTube channel where we're doing a bit of a preview episode. And if you wanted to listen to our review of the GWS game, it's also on our own YouTube, Navy Blue Corner. And where if you listen in podcast form, just type in Navy Blue Corner and it'll be nice and there for you.
I've done it for you as well. Put your link in the description. Bucky, I believe your preview comes up tomorrow. What else is on the horizon for you as well, Bucky?
Yeah, preview tomorrow, all day footy tomorrow. So junior footy in the morning. Then I might go out and watch a little bit of Coates Talent League in the afternoon. So all over that at the moment. So looking forward. There's Vic Metro, Vic Country trials and young guns and all types of stuff happening at the moment. So mid-season draft coming up. So we'll be getting stuck into that, mate, with potentially two picks for the Bluebaggers in that mid-season draft. So yeah, looking forward to sinking my teeth into some of the youngsters coming through, and also a really, really strong VFL system at the moment as well. Good players available to take come mid-season draft time.
Mate, there's a lot of excitement around the juniors, but also, like you say, the mid-ages who will enter that mid-season draft, second chance players. Paolo, Lincoln Bucky's channel is in the description. I've just put it in there. And Paolo, what are you doing? You've got about 1,000 things.
Oh, geez, where do you begin? Right, so this week, early next week, we'll start with the jumper punch. We have a special guest. We've got David Rees-Jones coming on as a guest on the jumper punch, which is going to be fantastic. And he's going to have a chat about, I can't remember the condition that his son has. Off the top of my head.
Prader-Willi syndrome.
Yes, Prader-Willi syndrome. So David is going to have a chat and come on to have a chat about all of that. So we're going to be raising awareness for his son and the syndrome that he's suffering, and we'll have a little donation link to the website as well. So make sure you get around that. It'd be great to have a chat to David Rees-Jones before we head up our clash against Collingwood. We've got an Untitled Blues podcast, part of the SEN Podcast Network, which we'll be recording early next week. We've got a special guest coming on. Big Paul Barbaz is going to join us in studio. So that's going to be a lot of fun. There's no other person you'd rather get for a Carlton Collingwood preview than Big Baz, I don't think. So he's going to be joining us. And, yeah, we're gearing up for a big week next week. Blues Radio is back on SEN Fanatic. So those who can't get to the game or those who are at the game and listen to the radio via their app or via their digital radio, they can head to SEN Fanatic and catch Blues Radio on SEN. So little bit to go with it to organise it logistically, but Blues Radio is back for a one-off against Collingwood next week, and then just a whole heap of racing stuff going on with the channel and Premier League up the Arsenal. Big win for us, and yeah, it's a whole heap of stuff going on this week.
Well, Paolo's about 242 links. He's got the bibliography of the Bible.
Pick whichever you want.
They are in chat right now. I'll be back tomorrow. Preview. If you remember, we've got the rundown of the top 50 draftees of players who have played right now. So that will be on there and then available to the public a couple of days after. We'll edit the live chat into a small video. And finally, thank you, everyone. Enjoy. We will see you later in the week, no doubt. But peace, love, and light. God bless everyone, and we'll see you all next week.
Go Blues.